nature of the relationship then of a disfellowshipped person is not completely shunned. As far as their family members are concerned, normal family relations continue with the exception of spiritual fellowship.
Welcome to the show. Hi. Oh, hi. You look on the ceiling. You know, a lot of people have been talking about protesting, and it seems to have been the summer of protesting JW conventions. Some people have wondered if protesting is for them, kind of like this Awake magazine. And there were some really great protests that took place, like the one in Vancouver, there was one in London, and like this one that we see that just happened recently in Pennsylvania.
It's the last weekend of the Jehovah's Witnesses convention in Reading, attracting people from all over the world.
Be courageous. Protect your children.
She's protesting the organization she was raised in.
I am a survivor of child sexual abuse within the organization, and I was silenced for over 20 years.
Alongside other survivors, like the Hawks, who say their daughter was sexually abused when she was 4 in the Red Lion Kingdom Hall.
This is a rapid, widespread problem that is finally being brought to light. It's being brought to light in Catholicism, it's being brought to light with Jehovah's Witnesses.
But the Jehovah's Witnesses at the convention wouldn't address the protesters. In fact, they wouldn't even let me inside, despite sending an invitation to this convention last month.
Could you tell us why we're not allowed in anymore? Aren't these supposed to be open to the public?
Because you have revoked your supposed permission to even be here. That's why.
Stop the two-witness rule!
Jehovah's Witnesses blocked every entrance, but from the sidewalk, protesters continued to march. Mannion says she just wants to be heard.
There's more than a level of abandonment. There is outright silencing.
In Reading,
Please report abuse to the police.
Becca Hendrickson, WGAL News 8.
In fact, I just finished filming a video with my great friend Andrea Brock, who was one of the protesters at that convention in Pennsylvania. So stay tuned, it's going to be on her channel. But you know, my attitude has really changed about protesting. I used to not be in favor of them. But you know, keep in mind, I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness. And for so long, ever since I can remember, they've been portraying protesters like this. This is from their Revelation book. We see in the picture here the protesters had sticks, they had bandanas, they were angry. And, you know, things have actually escalated from there because the final video that was shown at the 2018 JW convention had, instead of sticks, they had guns. And here they are, you know, triggering whatever PTSD the JW members have. This is the kind of thing that they want to portray as happening to them. The organization, though, has a very hypocritical stand when it comes to protesting. So this is from the July 2013 Awake magazine. The question is protest the answer? And notice what I've got highlighted there. It says Jehovah's Witnesses, the publishers of this magazine, are politically neutral. But they need to add, when it's convenient for us. Because don't forget, this is the same organization that asked their members to write letters of protest to the Russian government, just recently, in fact. I imagine they didn't call it letters of protest, but that is what it is. And when you write letters of protest to a government asking them to not do something, which is what they were doing, please do not, you know, persecute Jehovah's Witnesses, etc., whatever they said, I don't know exactly. But when you write letters of protest to a government, that is called lobbying a government. And when you lobby a government, that is a political move, whether they choose to see it that way or not. It's funny how it's suddenly okay to protest when they deem it necessary. And of course, the protest that they cite is one of the most extreme ones we've ever seen. It's been dubbed the Arab Spring, when that Tunisian man lit himself on fire in utter desperation. So this isn't the kind of thing that normally happens at protests. The article goes on to show why some people want to protest. It talks about dissatisfaction, as I've highlighted there, when people feel that the systems are corrupt and unjust and rigged in favor of a select few, conditions are ripe for social unrest. Kind of like what happens at JW.org. And then they talk about a trigger, an event that moves people to action, a belief that they must do something. kind of like all the child sexual abuse that has been covered up by JW.org. And then it goes on to talk about where some people have power and others have to suffer under them, kind of like the victims of abuse within JW.org who have been silenced and punished. The article then starts talking about this gentleman who was born in 1965 in Northern Ireland, who saw much injustice and inequality where he lived. It talks about the fact that he engaged in various protests, and of course the happy ending to all of this is that he became one of Jehovah's Witnesses. We know that their solution to everything is God's kingdom. I don't know, but I find that guy's story all just pretty sad. So here's a guy who was born in 1965, so he's over 50 years old, and he's being told basically to do nothing. Just wait for Jehovah to do something. Yet that is not what the organization does, as I brought out within Russia. When they have a problem, they're more than happy to encourage everyone to write letters of protest to the Russian government. But when you see other things happening that doesn't seem to affect them, they can just blame it all on Satan and his world. You know, you're supposed to just do nothing. This guy's been waiting for over 50 years now for nothing. And I don't know, I kind of compare it to being like, oh, I don't know, let's say you're in a big building and the power goes out. Would you just say, hey, let's do nothing, let's just wait for Jehovah to do something? And then, you know, you're going through the hallways and it's all dark and you come across a group of people and they say, we're Jehovah's Witnesses. We're just praying for God's kingdom to come and do something, to turn on the power in this building. We're just going to do nothing. Everyone else in the building is rallying together. Who can we call? Who can fix this? How can we get this, this problem fixed for us? But the Jehovah's Witnesses are all banding together, doing nothing, praying, studying, preaching, doing jack squat, doing nothing to help this world. But when it affects them, make no bones about it. JW.org will call the authorities, as we see from this elder's letter. So this is from the November 1st, 2016 Body of Elders letter. What I've highlighted there says, when property damage occurs, quick action can go far in preventing further damage. Break-ins, thefts, incidents of arson, or other acts of vandalism should be promptly reported to the local authorities. Now, obviously, I have no problem with that at all. My concern, though, is I find it so interesting that they tell you that they should call the local authorities when there's damage to their Kingdom Hall, as it says, preventing further damage. So you want to call them right away to prevent further damage. Yet never once do they suggest that people call the local authorities when a child is being molested. I just find that so bizarre. So again, when it affects them, when a Kingdom Hall is about to be damaged or has been damaged, call the authorities. But when a child has been raped, call the legal department. Call the legal department. Isn't that interesting? JW.org doesn't like people coming to their Kingdom Halls to protest or to give any kind of message. But you know what? It is what Jesus did, and it is what the early apostles did. We know Jesus went into the temple with whips, and he was overturning the money changers. Now, I wouldn't recommend anybody going into a Kingdom Hall and throwing over the contribution boxes and say, compensate your victims of abuse. But you know what? It is what Jesus would have done. And of course, we have the example of the Apostle Paul and other disciples back then. They went right into the synagogue. And it's also what the early JWs used to do. Right? We have lots of examples of them picketing outside churches. Religion is a snare and a racket, and with their sound cars spouting off messages of doom. Protesting the atrocities that religious organizations have done to people seems to be gaining in momentum. We see here a clip of what just recently happened within the Mormon Church.
The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. The First Presidency and the Quorum of the 12 Apostles are covering a sexual predator that lives in your ward. His name is Joseph Bishop. He was the MTC president in 1984 when he raped me in the basement of the MTC. If you're not aware of this, thank you. Yeah, I'll be done in just a minute. I will. Thank you.
I'd love to talk to you afterwards.
Okay.
Can I talk to you
However,
afterwards?
absolutely. I'd love to talk to you afterwards.
Yeah, please.
However, for the atonement to take place, we have to be accountable for what we do. We don't get to.
I'm
Thank you.
Talk to you, okay?
But you know what? You're in my personal space.
Okay.
Excuse. No. I have more to say. My name is
You're welcome
McKenna
to share with
Jensen.
me. Okay.
I approve this
You're welcome to share
message.
with me.
I will share with you. However,
to share with you
it
after,
is
okay?
really important. It is really important that you understand. In order to keep our ward safe, in order to keep our church safe, do not call the police. Don't touch me. You're assaulting me. In order to keep the church safe, we need to hold sexual predators accountable, whether they are
please,
pedophiles
okay.
or whether they are rapists like
This is
Joseph
not a
Bishop.
place for you to share this, okay? Come on.
Thanks to social media, we now have the opportunity to learn about what exactly has been going on all these years. I mean, for years I was a Jehovah's Witness and I had no idea about what was going on. Yes, we had some pedophiles in my congregation. Yes, we had some wife beaters, but it didn't even occur to me that this was a global problem. It wasn't until years after I was outside the organization that I learned about all the cover-ups. And I learned through social media about all the different victims of abuse and how for years they've been silenced. Well, no more. Now we all have the opportunity to speak out. And this is really the best thing to do. They say, how do you stop a bully? You speak out against them. Imagine if you are somebody who is a former member of the Jehovah's Witnesses. You don't want to be part of their religion anymore. You're disgusted by their hypocrisy. You're disgusted by their false prophecies, or whatever your reasoning is, or perhaps you're a victim of abuse. You try to contact your parents, and they will have nothing to do with you. They'll hang up the phone when you call them. They'll block you when you try to email them. And so you go into a Kingdom Hall, and you go onto the platform like that Mormon lady did, and you speak out, and you tell people. Well, I'm telling you, it feels good to be able to speak out. You have the opportunity now, as never before, thanks to social media. I mean, we could put together a protest overnight, if need be. And this is the great thing. The only thing I would add is how important it is to just check your motive. You know, we don't hate Jehovah's Witnesses. It's the organization whose destructive policies that need to be changed. We're not trying to wipe out the whole organization. There are specific destructive policies that need to be changed. And the best way that we can do this is by giving a voice to it, alerting people, whether it's through protests or whether it's through doing videos or letter writing campaigns, which JW.org seems to like to do. However we do it, however you feel comfortable, there's so many things to do. As they say, the fields are white for harvesting. So there's much work to be done. And what I would really like to see done is, okay, so I see it this way. Compensating the victims is one thing that needs to be done. Improving our laws to stop this abuse has to be done. Punishing those who are the abusers, for sure we need to do this. And I would love to see the tax-free status removed from these so-called charities. You know, it's such a farce that your tax dollars are supporting these destructive cults. It's quite awful. So I'd love to see that removed as well. So, but as I said, you attract more bees to honey than to vinegar. So, you know, I feel it's very important to be dignified and to be humble and to be sincere in your efforts, because it just comes across so much better. We know that JW.org, how they love to depict protesters as, you know, sticks and guns and whatever else. But as you're going to learn from the interview that I did with my great friend Andrea, that protest, I believe, was very successful. And they almost called it a silent protest, although they were saying the odd thing. But they were, well, you'll learn more about it later. I'll let you watch her video, which will be on her channel very soon. So do whatever you can do with the goal of improving the situation. So thank you all, everybody, for watching this video. And if you like it, please like it, share, subscribe, whatever you choose to do. It's up to you. And I just want to say that I really think that the ex-JW community and all of us who actually, you know, the ex-Mormons and all of us who have come out of these destructive organizations, we form a great community. We've been much maligned. And I will say so myself, that we are great people. So thank you all again, and we'll see you another time. Bye-bye.